In AI, you have to lose time before you gain time, right? So you have to learn it before you start gaining time. And yesterday, we gave a presentation, and in 40 minutes, we didn't have any business ideas. And in 40 minutes, we built an attractions, we built a business plan, we had images, a logo, a website, even a song, even a jingle for for that business. So that's the spark. I mean, when you see what it can do in so little time, what used to take a week to fill out the grant application is now taking half a day. That's when you see the gain, the productivity gain.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special event spotlight featuring Quebec City. I had the privilege to attend a conference called Les Grands Remous, which stands for Troubled Waters. And it was a conference that was brought together by MT Lab from Montreal and Destination Québec. And it's their first of what will be an annual series of events focused around sustainability and innovation. And I had the privilege to be one of 3 English language keynote speakers to be brought in for the event. Now, I went in January of 2025, which is a beautiful month to go to Quebec City. It's just before the Carnaval, which is the big celebration of winter in Quebec. So there is ice sculptures and all sorts of amazing outdoor activities, which we got to take in some outdoor skating and hot chocolates. And it was a really special event full of truly wonderful people that have come together to celebrate our industry and that are very focused on sustainability and making sure that our world will be preserved for future generations. And I had the privilege to listen to many speakers myself, and then I had the opportunity on day 2 to interview several very fascinating people that you're going to get a chance to hear from now. There's 8 speakers in total, and we're going to kick off with Martin Lessard, who is the managing director of MT Lab, which is Montreal Lab. And I got to experience the Montreal love of their entire team, who were truly extraordinary. And it was such a privilege to be amongst you for that few days, just to feel the energy and excitement, especially around all the startups that are part of your ecosystem. So we're going to start off with Martin, and then we're going to speak to Robert Mercure, who is the head of Destination Québec. He is the CEO, and he gave us a great overview of what makes Quebec City such a special destination. Then we're going to speak to one of the other outstanding keynotes, Matt Woods, who came all the way from New Zealand for this special event, and he's the chief executive of Queenstown Tourism. And then we're going to bring it back to Quebec and speak to JP Duscheneau, who is an AI enthusiast and a remarkable entrepreneur. He's actually a former lawyer, and you have to listen to his story. It's really fascinating. And then we speak to Geneviève, who is completely focused on all things sustainability in Quebec, followed by Olivier, who runs a really cool electric camper van company in Bromont. And then we speak to Simon Jacobs, who is a tour guide and also runs Immersion Quebec. And then we finish it off by going back to one of the colleagues at MT Lab, Florence Barbeau, who heads up all of their partnerships. I just wanted to say thank you so much to the entire team at MT Lab and Ulism, Nina, Martin, Stefan, and especially Frederick, who kindly picked me up at the airport and ensured I got an amazing tour of Quebec City to kick things off. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be there. And I look forward to everyone enjoying these stories. We'll be right back. Our longtime listeners will be very familiar with travelai.com, one of our sponsors from the very beginning. They've sponsored the last 2 seasons and also our AI Summit. You might actually remember they were recently featured in season 4, the 2 co-founders, John Leotier and Chris Jensen, live from Focusrite, where they shared how their innovative use of AI is reshaping the travel industry. If you missed it, we highly recommend going back to hear their inspiring story of building one of the fastest growing, profitable AI companies in travel, entirely bootstrapped. Travel AI is revolutionizing the industry by blending AI-powered efficiency with personalized, human-centered travel experiences. From micro-segmentation to tailored travel solutions, their mission is to enhance every traveler's journey while setting the pace for travel's future. Here's how you can join the exciting mission. If you or someone you know in tech or AI is looking for a new career that combines innovation and impact, then head to travelai.com or follow them on LinkedIn to explore more opportunities. They are growing fast. Thanks again for your continued support. Did you know that over 20% of people who purchase a ticket will upgrade to a refundable option when given the choice? By offering Refund Protect, you make it easy for your customers to protect their ticket purchase against emergency circumstances like illness, injury, accidents, and more. Whether you're an airline, hotel group, tour operator, ticketing platform, OTA, or transport solution, when you partner with Protect Group, your customers get peace of mind and you generate extra revenue. With a Trustpilot score of 4.8 stars and over 31,000 reviews, they treat your customers as their own, earning the highest customer ratings in the industry. To find out more, check out Protect Group at protect.group. That's protect.group. And now, back to the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special live recording here in Quebec City. We've had the most extraordinary couple of days. I now have the pleasure of sitting down to record with the managing director of MT Lab and the person that was responsible for bringing this whole event together, Martin Lessard. Welcome, Martin. Bonjour. Good morning. Great to have you with us.
Hi. Thank you very much.
Now, tell everyone what MT Lab is first. I think that's probably a great place to start.
Yeah, MT Lab is an incubator accelerator dedicated to tourism, culture, and entertainment. We are based in Montreal, but we have some office in Quebec City and maybe in other region of the Quebec province. The idea is like to provide or to be a bridge between two ecosystems: the innovative ecosystem, the entrepreneurs, and the actors of the tourism industry. The idea is like how to make them work together to make sure that they have the best fit to the market.
It's a fascinating story, and I think for our international listeners, MTL is the short form for Montreal, so it's a clever name, so MT Lab. And I've also come to experience a lot of MT love here the last couple of days. Your team has been incredible. It's been such an honor and a pleasure to be here. So thank you for bringing me in to speak and also for recording these conversations, Martin. Now, MT Lab organized this event. Now tell everyone what the name of the event is and what it translates to in English.
Yeah, the name in French is Les Grands Remous, which might be translated in troubled waters. The idea is like in tourism, and I guess in any kind of other industry, we are like at the crossroads, and that is very scary for everybody. So we just say to the industry, maybe we should have a place where we can talk about that, have people from other industry to talk about what is innovation, what is sustainable, and what we can do with that. So the idea is to bring all this industry to one place, and once a year, like to think about those troubled waters ahead of us.
Yeah, well, now, so obviously you're based in Montreal. You're hosting this event in Quebec City for the very first time. I know your plans to be here for at least 2 years, maybe 3 years. Innovation, sustainability, two of the big themes. Tell us who's come together. I mean, there's 400 people here, and I think many of our listeners can hear some of the people around us and hear the Quebecois French, which is so lovely to hear. And obviously the people are so wonderful. But tell everyone who is here for this event.
The idea is to bring all those DMO, those the destination marketing office, who wants like to understand what's coming on and to be able like to bring all their art actors in tourism actors in their region to think about the next step. But mainly it's mainly those DMO, but also actors from the hotel sector. It might be also like from the transportation. The idea is like to bring people like from all different sections of the tourism industry.
That's amazing. And the people that came to speak at the event, obviously I had the honor and the pleasure to close yesterday's session, but I sat through all the sessions yesterday, and they were so inspiring. We had Matt from New Zealand, who runs Tourism Queenstown, and Richie, Professor K, exactly, from NYU. But tell us the types of people you brought together for this conference.
Yeah, it's like, you know, like the tourism industry are very well knit together. It's because we all speak French, so we are all together, and we are like in a sea of English speaking people. So in a way, we are very close together. And one problem is like when we have we're too much together, that it's very hard to listen to understand what's going on outside this little bubble. It doesn't mean that it's bad to be in that bubble, but sometimes when you have those weak signals from outside, people talking about different way of doing tourism, like in New Zealand, or maybe like what is hospitality, how Dr. Key teach hospitality in New York. That is very good because we are in the same industry, but we do it differently.
For sure. And the other sessions, there was an amazing speaker in the morning. Tell everyone the background, because he is a strong environmentalist. He spent a lot of time in the polls, and I know that presentation really struck people. And I watched a few of the videos, so I had some understanding, but obviously tell us a little bit more about him in particular, because he was one of the star attractions of being here.
Yeah, it was Jean Lemire. He's a biologist who bought a boat like maybe some 20 to 30 years ago and went across the world, mainly in Antarctic and Arctic seas, to see what's going on. It was his passion. Maybe we can, for people who knows the Commandant Cousteau, it's kind of our Commandant Cousteau in Quebec, and he went to the north in North Canada, and like maybe let's say 15 years ago, when he struggled to cross the channel through the ice from the east to the west side of the Arctic. But 10 years after that, he went back again, and there were no ice at the same time of the year. So he came back very stressed about what's going on, and from now on he want to talk about that to everybody. Being someone from our own community, that's worked a lot more than some scientific or scientists around the world, but because he's talking about our own world, our own country, that is very scary for us.
For sure. I mean, it was very sobering, and I could see the reaction of the audience as he was showing the videos and just highlighting how precarious the situation is with climate change and how the world is being negatively impacted. And I think that's what clearly we all need to be very conscientious of as we promote tourism in a responsible and a sustainable way. Whatever the terminology that's most appropriate, we want to make sure that we leave the world for future generations to be able to enjoy as we've had the privilege to. And I think that's what stood out, not only with his, but obviously Matt from Queenstown, and the remarkable innovation that they have undertaken, things like electric jet boats. It's remarkable. And so I think hopefully it has inspired a lot of people here to see the examples of these great speakers you've brought together. But in addition to the speakers and the incredible delegation that I've had a real privilege to get to know, the other thing that stood out to me is all these startups. And MT Lab, obviously, you've been running this for nearly a decade now, and you've got such a impressive background with working with startups to help them scale. Interestingly, for our listeners, Stay 22 was actually one of the first.
Andrew
Lockhead, who's been on this podcast. He was actually one of the first cohort 8 years ago when you guys started. And it's a remarkable Quebec success story. So credit to you for establishing this, because you came in to organize MT Lab, get this off the ground, and to help startups like him. There's many other startups that are here at this event. Tell us a little bit more about the ones that you've chosen to bring to the event here today, because on this podcast, of course, many of our listeners are going to hear from them as well.
Yeah, it's let's talk about Hopin. Hopin World is kind of something from the left field. It's a metaverse where you can see a destination through your goggle. For the tourism industry, that's very hard to understand, like how something which is not the real destination can help the destination, and he succeeds to just find the right way to say, for the tourist journey, you need a time where you have to think about where you want to go. But before that, you have maybe to see maybe people who are gonna change your point of view on where you want to go in the world. With Open World, you can put your goggle and you're gonna talk with other people at the destination, so it can present you the destination without going there, but it gives you the sense that maybe that's the place where you want to go, but without moving. The idea again is it's like how to bring something that seems not to fit in the tourism industry. We have somebody who escaping. Escaping is like putting a high definition camera on the top of a mountain, so you're able to see if there's some snow on the mountain before going there. So sometimes it's not really like something you think first about what you need for a ski station, but all those startups bring some small solutions which are quite great to change the point of view of the tourist.
For sure. And the other one that stood out to me is the Dig It guys that do the trails. Tell everyone a little bit about their business, because that's one that stood out to me, that of course this is incubated in Quebec. Not only do you have the culture, you've also got the landscape, and you've got people that are solving really important problems that many of the people wouldn't have realized and created a successful business as. I was so impressed meeting them yesterday. Obviously, yes, they're part of your new cohort. And essentially their business model is focused on working with trails, even ski hills, where you can have an app. When you have your trails open, you have the option to be able to have it on your app, on your website, and actually on the trail to indicate whether it's open, closed, or under construction. And it's, again, a novel problem that a lot of companies face. And so this is where you, obviously being the Director General of MT Lab and seeing these businesses come in that are addressing pain points and determine who else you bring in. The other one that stood out to me is My Smart Journey.
Yeah, My Smart Journey.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, this one is like it's bringing QR codes to help employees of a destination, of an attraction, like to not depend on the IT to do kind of a small journey through the destination. Let's say you want to put some QR code and then you want to attach some multimedia information, a picture, a video. It's very easy to update your information to one point. The idea is like you can change it very on the fly and not depending on your IT guy or IT girl who have to change the website. And the idea is not bringing the QR code. It's bringing the server behind the QR code. That is very easy for the employee, and that employee is able like to present that to the boss after that and say, here's what we should do next, and if we want to go to next to something more like bigger, then we can go somewhere else, but we have to start somewhere, and My Smart Journey is the place to start.
Fascinating. Yeah, no, I saw the way they organize scavenger hunts. There's so many different applications for their technology. And Panorama was another interesting one. I think they want to get into MT Lab. They're based here. They have this software for boards to be able to operate together. And it was a new business I wasn't familiar with. And I love when you come across these startups.
Panorama is a good example of something that you don't think fits in the tourism industry. Because when you say, this is a startup in tourism, you're going to think about hotel or maybe a restaurant or something for the restaurant. But it's a business, and a business sometimes needs sometimes some administration software, and Panorama help the non-profit organization to deal with the administrator in a simple way. But that is maybe there are a lot of tourism actors are non-profit organization, and they might profit from this solution.
Yeah. No, it's so interesting, and that's why I love when you've connected the startup ecosystem with the established players like the DMOs, because they're clearly looking to leverage new technology and they're learning from each other. And I've seen that here over the last couple of days. The other thing I was also keen to ask you is the trends that you're seeing in Quebec tourism, whether it be at MT Lab specifically, or even the discussions you've been having here. What, as we sit here in 2025 and look at how this year and the future is going to play out for Quebec tourism, what are some of the trends, whether it be technology or tourism, that you're paying attention to, Martin?
It's mainly everything about HR. We have a startup in Montreal who is dealing with migrant people, because those migrant people comes to the country and they don't really know what is the tourism industry. So we need some people who knows migrant and they think like them, so they have to be migrant themselves, and they are able to be the middleman to bring them to the tourism industry. So the idea sometimes is not having a solution that is high tech or even low tech. Sometimes it's no tech. It's just a way it's a people industry. So you need those new startups who think differently and say, I'm gonna bring you your next employee, and they're gonna come with their culture, and they're gonna help them or help you to understand their culture.
Well, that's very cool. That's an interesting answer, because almost everyone I speak to, the first thing they're going to say is AI, of course. It's just and so I find that refreshing. Clearly AI is a big
for sure, yeah.
But HR and just how you actually, and I guess that's an example, a company like Panorama that helps with boards, because a lot of these companies here have boards, and they have board reports.
But AI is, for me, I mean, it's something that AI is going to be like a tool. It's like telling 20 or maybe 30 years ago now, having Google. So Google, I mean, are you an expert in the server of a search engine? No, you're just using Google or maybe Yahoo at the time. So the AI is the same thing today, and it's changed every month, every week, almost every day now. So for me, it's not the next big thing, because it has to settle down first, and then we're gonna say this is the next thing to do. But right now we are just struggling to just understand what we're gonna do, and even if we use the tool, it's gonna change. And for right now, I don't think the people really understand what's going to change, but it's maybe too early to say it.
That's really interesting. No, again, I appreciate your perspective on this. The other thing I wanted to ask you, given that we are coming to the end of the event, is what you're hoping people are going to take away from the time they've had here, and how you're going to factor that in to coming back next year.
Yeah, it's the idea, like, we're mainly about innovation. The idea is, like, innovation is not the end point. Innovation is just a way to go somewhere. And the tourism industry doesn't have a lot of time, not of money. So it's the idea of to have this posture, I don't know if it's the right posture, to be understand when this is an opportunity to take. If you're not in this position to understand what's going on, you're not able to understand what you can do next if something happens. When the pandemic struck our industry, I am in tourism, culture, and entertainment industry. So, the next day, people just look at me and say, you're dead, But, I am in the innovation sector. So I just say to my partners, now, let's go for the new experience. Let's go for no contacts technology. And the idea is, like, innovation is always there. So my partners knew those kind of weird startup with no contact, the multi-sensorial experience. So we just bring this new innovation and say, you know them since the last 2-3 years. Now you're ready to take the opportunity, even if it's the pandemic.
Wow, that's really interesting. And I know you're going to have to get back into the session shortly. I can see your team and the sound that people can hear in the background. Sounds like a ship's about to leave. We're at the port of Quebec, and it's an amazing venue space, and that's the sound to say, get back into the session. So I just had one last question for you, is when, with MT Lab, your plans for this year, I know you've got a demo day coming up in June, and I hope to come up to Montreal to join you for that and meet some of the startups. And so, but tell us what you have planned this year for MT Lab, and then how people can find out more about MT Lab and follow up with you.
Yeah, if you want more information, it's mtlab.ca. It's in French right now, so you're going to practice your French if you want to. I hope to have a English section pretty soon. But we are doing, like, the demo day. Demo day is like, even if we are in the industry of incubator accelerator world, the demo day is mainly not about pitches. It's about, like, slow dating. We are putting those startups in a room, and our partners, like, just take time, 30 minutes, to talk to them about their experience, not about their solution. So that's what is our demo day. But also we ask our partner to say, you're going to do a reverse pitch. So during maybe in spring or or maybe in September, we're going to have those reverse pitch from our partner. We're going to tell what kind of problems they want to solve in the next year. So they are the one who are telling the industry, this is where we want to see the next innovation. So having those partners telling us as leader, telling us what they are looking for, that is the best way to help entrepreneurs to have the best fit to market with their solution.
That's exciting. That's terrific. And I'm sure people will use Google Translate, as I did, but it'll be terrific to have the English version as well. Because it's there's such a compelling story here to be able to share with the world. So thank you, Martin, again. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for bringing me here. And also, congratulations on a very successful first MT Lab event.
Thank you very much, Dan, and see you in Montreal.
Look forward to it. Thanks so much. We'll be right back. Hey, travel publishers and content creators. If you're searching for a fresh way to boost your revenue, then look no further than our friends at Stay22. Their AI-powered solutions work seamlessly in the background, adding an extra stream of revenue without altering any of your site's setup. In 2024 alone, their tools have powered more than 2 billion pages and helped their partners generate more than $500 million in GMV. It's time for you to join successful partner programs like Matador Network and WeatherBug and elevate your earnings today. Just go to stay22.com/travel trends and you'll get details on an exclusive offer just for Travel Trends listeners. That's stay22.com/travel propellic.com/travel trends. Hey travelers, are you looking to book your next adventure? Then you have to meet our good friends at Flight Center, the travel-obsessed experts ready to make your next dream trip a reality. For over 40 years, they've been opening up the world to travelers from the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and now Flight Center Canada is celebrating an incredible milestone, 30 years of helping Canadians explore the globe. From their first store in Vancouver in 1995 to becoming the official travel agency partner of the Toronto Raptors this year, they've been at the forefront of delivering travel experiences. At Flight Center, travel is more than a passion. It's their expertise. From flights and accommodations to cruises and tours and even business travel, they handle it all. Whether it's crafting a tailor-made trip or tackling group bookings, they've got you covered. Plus, with exclusive perks like their new Bundle and Save, $500 on tour and cruise packages, there's never been a better time to plan your getaway. From the smallest getaways to the biggest bucket list trips, your travel goals are just a call or a click away. Visit flightcenter.ca/travel trends to explore the latest deals, learn about emerging travel trends, and start planning your next trip. Are you looking for ways to grow your travel business through paid media and optimized SEO? Then you have to check out our friends at propellic.com. They are the leading digital agency for growth in travel and tourism. Propellic offers bold digital marketing strategies to ensure your travel company's success. They have a remarkable methodology that has actually been implemented by travelai.com, and they are a leading SEO agency globally and offer a range of resources, a podcast of their own, a blog on their website, propellic.com. That's propellic.com. And don't forget to mention Travel Trends for your free marketing audit. Now, back to the show. Welcome back to a live recording here at Les Grands Remous, which is the troubled waters, as you heard there from Martin. I now have the privilege to sit down and speak with the CEO of Destination Québec City, Robert Mercure, who is joining us for a brief chat to tell us a little bit more about this amazing city that we've hosted this event in. So, bonjour, welcome, Robert. Great to have you with us.
Thank you, Dan. Great being with you.
Absolutely. My wife is from Montreal. I love coming back to this province. And I wanted to ask you a bit more about your background. Let's start with that, because you were originally from Montreal, but you've been here for nearly 20 years in Quebec City. Tell us a little bit about your story and how you actually got into tourism.
Well, I'm actually a hotelier. I'm a fourth-generation hotelier, so I've traveled the world, brought up in the hotel business with my family, originally from Quebec and the province of Quebec, closer to Montreal, and traveled the world. I've lived in 20 different destinations, spent a lot of time in the U.S., Europe, Western Canada, etc. Exposed early on. Also ran was CEO at the convention center in Montreal, so very exposed to the convention business. I ran the Chateau Frontenac. I was general manager at the Chateau Frontenac here in Quebec City for 11 years.
Incredible. It's Chateau Frontenac, part of the Fairmont properties. I just want to make sure all of our listeners actually know the significance of what you just mentioned, because these hotels were built across Canada during a very I guess a special time in our history where we're trying to encourage more people to come to Canada and take trains across the country and stay in these remarkable hotels. And the Chateau Frontenac, which everyone listening to this has to look up if you're not familiar with it, because it is the most beautiful hotel in Canada.
Absolutely, it's iconic. It's our Statue of Liberty, if you will, and so it's one of the most photographed hotels in the world. And the whole Fairmont heritage hotels in Canada were built by Canadian Pacific and CN as well, Canadian National, as a whole network of hotels tying together the railway system. In fact, Canadian Pacific was the first international travel empire that could circle the globe.
Is that right?
Yeah, by boat and train.
Wow, that's fascinating. The part I became familiar with, because working in the travel industry for so many years, and travel agents often get discounts, and Fairmont had these great program, Fairmont Famous program, and I had the opportunity to go and stay at the Fairmont in San Francisco. So CP, as you would know, being an executive there, bought the Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco and rebranded their hotel chain. And a Fairmont's a great name. It's a luxurious name, but I still love the allure of CP hotels, Absolutely. Canadian Pacific, it's really strong Canadian identity.
Yeah.
So how did you transition from the hotel world into being in the destination management?
Well, I was offered that position here in Quebec City. I fell in love with Quebec City. My kids pretty much became adults here, so there was always the emotional and professional and family connection. Quebec City is really a very unique destination for all kinds of reasons that you're seeing. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's always, I felt, had an amazing potential to go even further. It's always done well, but we're really bringing it elsewhere in a great way, and we want to do it in a sustainable way as well.
Well, tell the world a little bit about Quebec City. I had the privilege. I mean, I've been here a few times in my life. I came here in high school for an incredible kind of history tour with my high school class, so I still have fond memories of that. But when I arrived, one of the startups actually organized an amazing walking tour of the old city for me. And then last night I went and had a night walk around town and took some incredible pictures of Châteauneuf-Frontenac. So I would love for our audience to hear from you, just to share a little bit the history and context to Quebec City. A few parts of the history that maybe our global listeners may not be familiar with, because this is where Canada started in many ways.
Actually, yes, and it started as New France, right? So it was the capital of New France with the original French settlers. It was established in 1608, and it's the only fortified walled city north of Mexico. So it's extremely unique in North America. And in fact, one of the things that really attracted us in this sustainable approach is because often I say we have old world problems that Europe has seen for a few years in tourism development. We can think about Venice or Barcelona, etc. And other heritage cities. And because of our unique design and being a walled city and a heritage city, etc., we want to protect that because we're in the new world, but we have the most authentic European experience. It's certainly in North America. And so it's something we're proud of. You know, we protected our culture, our Francophone roots. People rave about the city. We've got a lot of demand, and we want to manage it correctly.
And you have one of your big festivals and events coming up shortly, because this is a year-round destination. I think winter is one of the best times to visit Quebec, but tell everyone about the carnival that's coming up.
Absolutely. It's the largest winter carnival in the world. And it all started because winter was slow, right, in the old days. And they all got together and said, okay, we got to do something. And so it really is an amazing celebration of winter with an incredible variety of winter experiences. It's very magical.
Yeah. No, it's... and for you this year, what is the overall marketing theme with promoting Quebec as a destination? Tell us a little bit about what you have planned for 2025, both for listeners that are interested to visit, but also partners that might be interested in working with you.
Well, it's really come to come to discover Europe and North America, and it's a multi-layered experience. We have a variety of whether it's museums or it's a very walkable city. And so the campaigns are focusing on discovering and rediscovering Quebec, because in some ways it's also a best-kept secret. But very accessible, particularly for people in the Northeast, U.S., etc., and even the Canadians are rediscovering Quebec City. Everyone has heard of Quebec City, but if you haven't lived it, we're really pushing the element of the magic year-round, okay, because we want to spread the wealth, so to speak. We do very well in the summer and in the fall. Winter, we've always felt that we have really a product that is so exceptional with a number of amazing ski resorts just minutes away and all the other winter activities. And so we're really pushing discovering Quebec year-round in its very unique flavor of varieties. It's kind of like 3 or 4 cities in one, because summer is very different from winter, and so are the activities and access to the St. Lawrence River and the mountains nearby. The combination of heritage, culture, nature, and active mobility options to explore is very, very unique for Quebec City, for us.
You know, I completely agree. I mean, I think most people will be familiar with Montreal. Obviously, Montreal is a fantastic, and it's a large city. Quebec is about 3 hours traveling by car, but rail is one of the best ways to get here. Of course,
sure.
Much more sustainable and a beautiful way to see it. And so when people think about traveling to Quebec City, how much time clearly there's a lot of time you can spend in this city. But what I would like to encourage our listeners is if they're coming to Montreal, if they're in Montreal for work or for business, that they should stay for a weekend and come to Quebec City. So what would be your recommendations for people who want to find out more information about coming to Quebec City and planning that weekend getaway?
Well, for sure, checking out our website would be a great start, and we've really pushed a lot of interactivity on our website, and obviously we've integrated some amazing AI type features. So it's a great user friendly experience for customizing your experience. What really people what resonates with a lot of our people is that they really we really do speak French here, and yet everyone is bilingual. We're known for our warm welcome and the variety of experiences and authentic cuisine. We've just become a designated a Michelin star destination as well. So we're becoming more and more well known for the whole gastronomy. If I'm saying it correctly, I'm translating from French, but gastronomic experience as well as the cultural experience, because there are quite unique things. We are the birthplace of New France and Canada. A lot of people don't realize. So depending on it, there's something for everyone, and that's really the message we want to push. And yes, a minimum a weekend. I like to say 3-4 days to really have the variety of going to nature, visiting some incredible lakes and areas, waterfalls at the Montmorency Falls. And it's the richness and the beauty of the region and the uniqueness, and that with that sort of flavor of the bon vivant, the great sort of French style life in North America and in Canada. It's really amazing. People, frankly, I interact a lot with tourists, and they come back to me and they become ambassadors. Word of mouth, there's nothing better than word of mouth, and it's really working. But I really, really strongly encourage people to come and discover us if you haven't seen it.
I love that you highlighted the language, because most travelers, when they go to a destination, they do try to speak, but often if you go to France, with all due respect to that destination, when you start to speak French, often French people will speak English back to you because they'll recognize right away. But here in Quebec City, and obviously Montreal has a lot of Anglophones as well, so you can get by in English, but in Quebec City, people really appreciate if you actually try, and you just see the smile and the delight, and they'll continue to engage with you and then switch over to English if needed. But for any of them coming to Quebec City, definitely practice your French and plan to use it here. It will elevate your experience. It'll connect you better to the locals. So Robert, I think that was a great suggestion. I'm, it's a real honor to speak to you. You mentioned the website. Can you just let everyone know what the URL is? And then also, if you want anyone to follow partners that might be listening to this, because we have a massive global B2B audience that might be interested in reaching out to you directly.
Sure. It's destinationquebeccity.com. Okay. And so then it really pools together a number of variety of resources. So when you want to drill down deeper into other experiences, you can really get the full flavor of the destination. And in terms of contacting me, certainly through the website with my team is a great way to start. And I'm always available for everybody who's interested in chatting further. And we're very proud. I think we really have a lot to show, and would love to continue, encouraging people and enlightening people to what the potential and what the fun is. The Chateau Frontenac is just one example. Often we see the Chateau Frontenac in our photos, right? Because we do it because then people kind of understand, okay, this is Quebec City, but it's just a small part of an amazing heritage and beauty and culture.
That's fantastic. Well, enchanté, Robert. Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much for joining us. And I wish you every success this year. And definitely everyone listening to this, come and visit Robert in Quebec City and meet these wonderful people, this great culture and cuisine. And thank you so much for joining us.
Merci beaucoup, Dan.
I now have the privilege to speak to one of the amazing keynote speakers that's traveled all the way from New Zealand to be here. His name is Matt Woods, and he is the CEO of Destination Queenstown. Welcome, Matt. Thanks so much for joining us on Travel Trends.
Dan, it's so good to be here. It's super exciting to be in Canada, and particularly to be here in Quebec. And look, I don't know if you've explained where we are, but we're sitting in the terminal building in Quebec Harbour, and I'm watching ice going down the river, the Lawrence River, right now in front of me, and it is wild. Like, it is minus 30 outside, and ice is rolling down the river. I mean,
in both directions, we discovered last night at dinner.
Directions.
Yeah, apparently it's to do with the tide, but it is remarkable to see. You're right, and we've been walking across together in the mornings, and it has woken us both up at the minus 30, but I'm a little bit more used to it. But you get minus 12 in New Zealand. Are you used to the winter?
Minus 12s, yeah, but not minus 30s. And usually even on a winter's day, it warms up to like 10 degrees in the middle of the day. So like to stay minus 30 all day, that's a little bit of a shock to the system. And of course, right now, it's summer in New Zealand.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So we're at sort of plus 30. So like the difference of being 60 degrees is crazy.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, tell everyone what brought you all the way across from New Zealand to be here at Les Grands Remous, which, for those people who've been already listening to this podcast, troubled waters, the idea of sustainability and innovation. So tell us how you ended up coming to this conference and what your experience has been so far.
Yeah, look, I'm pretty excited to be here, as you can tell. And MT Labs have done an amazing job of putting this together. And they contacted me about coming along, and particularly around talking about sustainability, and equally around what the work we'd been doing in our destination management plan in Queenstown, and particularly around carbon. And so right there creates this incredible oxymoron. I've traveled halfway around the world to come to a conference to talk about sustainability and decarbonisation, and I struggle with that. And, that was one of the toughest decisions for us when we were asked to come here. And, I looked at this and go, I have used 6.7 tons of carbon to come here. And we described yesterday in my presentation just what that really means when we talked about the volume of it. And I like to use the 40-foot shipping container example. And, we think about carbon and weight, but it's not. It's this invisible gas that's really dangerous. We all know that it's created by burning fossil fuels. And if I think about that 6.7 tons that I used to get here, it's equivalent to 44 shipping containers of CO2, which is phenomenal. And so I can't defend why I came here to do that, but I did come and share the story and use the power of tourism for good. And I know that sounds a little bit cheesy, but if you think about tourism, there is 10% of the population of the world works in tourism, 350 million people. Now, that's a lot of people. And if 350 million people can actually tell the story and influence the rest of the planet, we can actually do something for good here and make some changes. And so I really feel the power of tourism, and particularly I talk about the transformative power. And, when you travel somewhere, you come somewhere with this open heart and open mind. And I think about myself right here as I look across the river with the frozen ice. I'm learning something new right now. But when people come anywhere in the world to travel, they learn something new. So how do we use the power of tourism for transformative good?
Yeah, well, there's so much that New Zealand has to offer and teach the world. And just for a bit of context too, because I think what we'll make sure for our listeners is there's access to your presentation, because it was so inspiring, and you could have gone on for an hour and I would have been captivated, and so would the audience have been, because you had so much to share. And we've obviously gotten time together at dinner and throughout the event to get to know each other better and to talk about New Zealand, because I lived in Australia, as you know, for a while, and traveled through New Zealand. And New Zealand is a country somewhat similar to Canada in the sense that it is well known but largely misunderstood. You are from the South Island. Queenstown, as we were saying last night, is like the jewel in the crown of the South Island. The South Island is arguably the best part of New Zealand. I'm sure the North Islanders will say have other views on that, but any guidebook will tell you spend the majority of your time in the South Island. It is stunning and beautiful. All of New Zealand is great, but the South Island is certainly where you want to spend most of your time. And Queenstown is the capital of tourism, and therefore you have to be that much more conscientious of the environment and the impact that travelers are having. And you guys really have led the way. Why don't you share a couple of examples? The jet boat, for one, really blew my mind.
Yeah, sure. Look, and I think you touched on some really good points around Queenstown. I mean, and if we think about Queenstown specifically, tourism is the backbone of our economy. It's the number one game in town. And so if we make a change in tourism, it changes everything in our town. And if we sort of go back a notch before COVID, we had lost our social license. And I talk about social license not being over tourism, but very much around our community, pushing back saying, hey, it's too busy, there's too many visitors here, we don't see the benefit in this visitor economy. What's in it for us? So that's kind of the starting point. And then we look at how do we use tourism for good in Queenstown and how do we make those differences? But you've alluded to some great examples there. And so I'm just going to come back to the jet boat because you did ask that question. And in particular, what we've managed to do in our destination management plan is come up with this incredibly ambitious goal of being a carbon zero visitor economy by 2030. And so how do you do that? And so you need to rapidly decarbonize all of these activities. And the jet boat's a good example. So we have an operator called Shot Over Jet. They have internal combustion jet boats. They're using V8 engines, and they have developed the world's first electric jet boat. And so why have they done that? And so Shot Over Jet is owned by Ngāi Tahu Tourism. Ngāi Tahu is the Māori people of the South Island. It's the iwi, or the tribe. And they decided that it's not right to be burning all this carbon up and down the canyon, ripping through the jet boats. And so they decided they would create the world's first electric jet boat because there wasn't one. And so they did that for future generations because it's the right thing to do. But there's also a massive economic advantage to that. So by using tourism as the shop front, we can now export electric jet boats to the world. So we have a tourism activity that's decarbonized, but we've also diversified our economy from just being tourism to actually being able to develop and export electric jet boats.
Yeah, it's just incredible. And I think this is where, having traveled to New Zealand and Queenstown specifically, people are drawn to New Zealand for many reasons, Lord of the Rings being one of them, of course, but also the adventure, the outdoors, the adrenaline. And I think it stood out to me. I was telling Matt that I hiked the Milford Track, and Milford Sound is a well-known, beautiful destination in New Zealand, and I couldn't believe that I could drink the water out of the stream. And that it's more pure than the water you would get in a bottle. And it really blew my mind that actually the world was like this at one time, because I think we've just become so used to lakes and rivers being polluted and having to find other sources for drinking water. But that's not the case in New Zealand. And people are coming to New Zealand to experience the outdoors, and you've made this commitment and obviously this pledge, and you have your pillars that you need to make sure that the environment is going to be preserved for your children, for your grandchildren. You also talked yesterday about, looking back at your ancestors. Tell everyone that, because that really struck me as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think specifically about, I was using my own example, and I roll the clock forward to the year 2100. I am long gone. I'm currently 50 years old, so I'm not going to make it till then. My daughter would be potentially 95 years old. She might have children, she might not have children, but if she does, they might even have children. So in theory, I'm great-great-granddad. And I think about what I know now and the decisions that I make, and what would those great-great-grandchildren say about myself. And so when I'm left and going, hey, Granddad knew about actually burning fossil fuels causes climate change, and he did nothing about it, I don't think I could live with that. So I think about what does it mean to be a good ancestor, and thinking about potentially a year 2100, and what would those great-grandchildren say about the decisions that I made, knowing what I currently know.
Yeah. And the other thing that stood out to me, both by your background and presentation yesterday, that I wanted to highlight with our audience, when I got to know Matt over lunch on the very first day, he has such an impressive entrepreneurial background. He actually built up a collection. He's an avid skier. He's an outdoorsman himself. And he built up a collection of more than a dozen retail stores and sold them to a much larger player and did very well. And he could have retired over 10 years ago, but he decided that he wanted to continue to work in travel and tourism. And so what stands out to me there is obviously you have a strong business acumen. You're truly passionate about this because it's coming from a really honest place. And I guess that's where not everyone who enters into destination tourism has that background, because when you're working in government sector, a lot of people are more familiar with government, and there's great benefit to both private and public sector. But once you've had that private sector experience, you can really bring that additional business perspective to the public sector. And the examples you were sharing, both with the ski hill of getting rid of cups and getting people to stop drinking water. If I can share this, you guys gave up $250,000 in revenue in bottled water to be able to offer people the opportunity to actually fill their water bottles. But you sold those water bottles and made more than $350,000. The recyclable.
Totally. And look, I think this is a really interesting point. And so when we talk environmental initiatives, often people go, oh, it costs me more, I don't want to spend more, people aren't going to pay more. And I think we need to really demyth that, because that's not necessarily true. Often going green can be cheaper, and there is real cost benefits. And so I like to really start with the economic benefits. And if I think about the water bottle story is a really good story. So you're right. At the ski mountain, we did give up $250,000 worth of revenue, but we managed to actually lift our yield per person, and we made an extra $350,000 by giving away free water. So that was kind of a weird story to be able to give away some revenue, but actually make more money because we were able to lift the yield by giving away something free. But, if I think about the economic benefits, and particularly around decarbonisation, and the fastest way we can decarbonise is through electrification. And if we think about electrification and the cost of fossil fuels, it is much cheaper to run an electric machine. And so not just because the cost of the electricity is cheaper than, fuel, but also because of maintenance. And if you think about the maintenance that you have on a vehicle, so whether that's a bus or a car or some other vehicle, it is costing you a lot less in actually maintenance. And of course, the greatest thing too is you plug this thing in at night and in the morning it's fully charged. It's like your cell phone. So you're not even wasting time going to the garage and having to fill it up with gas, So there is massive economic advantages. And I think if we talk about those economic benefits first and foremost, then we often talk about the performance of, electrification on machines. And then of course, it's really good for the planet.
Yeah.
And so I think you got to flip the story. And if you think about what, destinations do, or destination marketing officers, we're storytellers. And so it's what's the story that we want to tell? And can we tell a story that can actually show, economic benefits and it's good for the planet?
Yeah. Matt, tell everyone how they can find out more about Queenstown, Destination Queenstown, or connect with yourself to partner with you in future opportunities.
Yeah, totally. Hey, Dan, it's been really good talking to you. And look, for anyone who is interested in Queenstown, just check out our website is www.queenstownNZ.nz. I know that probably sounds confusing. That's nz.nz. QueenstownNZ.nz. And look, there's a lot of information there around all of the wonderful things that you can do. And of course, you'll find us on social media and you'll get all the other stories there. So come and enjoy.
Well, you're going to continue to inspire me. I'm going to follow your journey, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you, Matt.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. In today's fast-paced travel industry, businesses face constant challenges, keeping up with new technologies, meeting ever-evolving customer expectations, and promoting products effectively. The real struggle? Managing it all in-house. That's where Travel Tech steps in to transform your business. With over 25 years of experience, Travel Tech is one of the most trusted names in travel technology, offering tailored solutions to fit your unique needs. They make it easy to create seamless, bookable websites, manage and promote products, and automate everyday tasks, giving your team more time to focus on what matters most, your customers. Plus, Travel Tech is the go-to name in cruise technology with cutting-edge solutions for tour operators as well. Plus, Travel Tech has just launched Tech Talk, a new podcast for travel professionals by travel professionals. Explore the stories behind the biggest innovations in travel. Visit traveltech.com/travel trends or tune in to Tech Talk on Spotify and Apple. That's traveltech.com/travel trends and Tech Talk on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Attention travel operators, destination management companies, and accommodation providers. Managing payments doesn't have to be a source of stress. Meet Flywire, the modern payments platform built specifically for the unique needs of the travel industry. With Flywire, you can collect payments from travelers worldwide with ease. Enjoy faster payouts in your preferred currency, reduce payment fees, and offer your guests flexible, localized payment options they're familiar with. Not only does Flywire simplify your operations, but it also helps elevate your guest experience and boost your bottom line. That means you can stop worrying about payments and focus on what you do best, creating unforgettable travel experiences. Discover how Flywire can help your business save time, save money, and deliver truly seamless transactions. Visit flywire.com/travel trends to learn more. That's flywire.com/travel trends. Attention travelers and travel advisors. Are you looking to elevate your travel experience beyond the ordinary? Then you have to say hello to our good friends at Colette, where guided travel gets a premium upgrade. For over 100 years, Colette has been crafting expertly guided tours that go beyond the stereotypes. With over 170 tours across all 7 continents, Colette offers something for every type of traveler, from culturally immersive small group journeys to single city stays and even river cruises. And with their industry-leading travel protection plan, you can cancel for any reason up to 24 hours before departure. Plus, when you book air with Colette, they even offer a private chauffeur service to and from the airport. Discover why travelers love Colette and why guided travel is thriving. Join the evolution of travel today at gocolette.com. Your next adventure awaits. That's gocolette.com. And now, back to the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another live recording here at Les Grands Remous in Quebec City. And this is one of the interviews that I was so looking forward to having and sharing with you. It's one of the most fascinating people I've had a chance to meet here in the last couple of days. His name, he goes by JP, but it's Jean-Philippe Duscheneau, and he is a remarkable individual. I need to give a bit of context to this guy because as more and more people said, you need to speak to him, you need to speak to him. I understood why. He's grown up in Montreal. He did law school in Ottawa. He worked at The Hague in the Netherlands. He has a remarkable career, but then he decided to come back to Montreal, bought a tourism business. He's grown it to now have more than 350 employees, and he is a passionate advocate for AI and he leads, I should say, a AI working group here in Quebec. So JP, it's a real pleasure to speak to you.
Nice to meet you as well. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah, awesome. So tell everybody, let's start with the AI.
Yeah.
So tell us about this working group, because you blew my mind yesterday for about 20 minutes at the end of the day with some of the tools that you've been working on. And as you highlighted to me, you don't have a technical background. Clearly, you're a very smart and clever guy, but you are just teaching yourself. You're watching YouTube videos. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing with AI.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, I own businesses in Montreal with attractions. So we own an adventure park with aerial courses. We own in total 6 different businesses, 14 locations, and as you said, about 350 employees. So it all started with a need. I mean, that's the best way to start. I mean, we needed to file some grants documents, and we were short on time. So we decided to use AI to help us, and that was what's started everything, and started a working group here in Quebec. And now we're doing a tour of Quebec where we try to teach all kinds of businesses around the province of how to use AI in their own businesses and organizations.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, let's talk about your businesses too, because you own these pirate ships. So tell us the sequence of events. So what was the first business you acquired? And then how has it grown over the last 7 or 8 years?
Yeah, so 10 years ago, I bought like the quadricycles and the pedal boats in the airport of Montreal. That's how it all started. So I was working in The Hague, decided to come back and start a business, and it all started from there. I joined 2 other partners, and then we built Voile en Voile in the airport of Montreal, which is the pirate ships with the aerial courses. And we grew from there. I mean, after that, we acquired 3 other companies. We launched new businesses, one at the Olympic stadiums. Now we also operate the ice skate rental at the ice skating rinks in the Old Port of Montreal, Quartier des Spectacles, Parc La Fontaine, and we have 6 other ice skating rinks. And so that's how it grew. So from there, that's where we are now.
And then this journey with AI, has it been over the last year, 18 months? When did this is exactly what you just started to highlight to our audience too, and what stood out to me is that you are identifying pain points like, customer service and 800 hours that it was taking one of your team members, and how could you reduce that down to 200 by virtue of doing this automation? So you were using it to problem solve. So when did you start to embrace it? Was it really from the early days of ChatGPT in the last 2 years?
It was earlier than that. I was using Jasper AI back then, so it was before ChatGPT came out. And we started really for the writing process, and it wasn't as good as it is right now, obviously. And then, as you said, I mean, we sat down, everybody, when ChatGPT came out, and decided to look at our processes. What was taking time? What was repetitive? What was really hard on our team? And that's, as you said, we identified the customer service part, because it was taking so much time every day, and it was repetitive. I mean, 80% of the questions that we get are always in 5 different topics. So how can we automate that process? And so we started looking at different solutions, and then we're using make.com right now with ChatGPT to automate the whole process.
Yeah, you were showing me some really clever tools and techniques. And I guess this is where, from my presentation yesterday, AI was part of my talk. And I was essentially just trying to empower people to embrace this technology and not fear it. And unfortunately, there is still a fairly large segment. It's the minority. The majority of people realize this is a big opportunity. But for those people out there that are sitting on the fence, that are hesitant, tell everyone how you started to embrace it and teach yourself, because I think that's what was really empowering of hearing your story and your journey. So for those people, because this is where, say you're not technical, but you're well-educated, you're running a business, and I'm sure other people will look and say, well, I just don't have the time to investigate and understand AI. And you clearly are very intellectually curious. So what how would you spark other people
Yeah.
to follow you by example?
Well, in AI, you have to lose time before you gain time, right? So you have to learn it before you start gaining time. And yesterday, we gave a presentation, and in 40 minutes, we didn't have any business ideas. And in 40 minutes, we built an attractions, we built a business plan, we had images, a logo, a website, even a song, even a jingle for that business. So that's the spark. I mean, when you see what it can do in so little time, what used to take a week to fill out grant application is now taking half a day. That's when you see the gain, the productivity gain. Okay. And we're not trying to cut people's jobs. I mean, when we're gaining some time, we just want people to go where they have more value. I mean, and that's what happened with the email automation. I mean, we went from 800 hours to about 200 hours, but the 600 hours that we're gaining, that person is working on something that is more productive, that is generating more revenue for example.
Yeah. So you highlighted the operational efficiency, which is certainly an amazing way to start utilizing AI. That session you just referenced, you did yesterday, I was seeing people coming up to you afterwards, and that jingle you referenced, like it was like a Quebec rap song. Yeah. And people were amazing. Like you literally built a business in 30 minutes. You came up with a concept, and as you said, built a logo, website, marketing initiative. Like it was like you did wireframes, and that's what really blew my mind as you were walking me through it. It's just like you just spun up a business in 30 minutes that would have taken months, if not years previously. So that, I think, was clearly very inspiring to everyone that attended your session, and people were buzzing coming out of it. And so that's why I wanted not only to have you on this podcast, but also to hear you share that to inspire our listeners. Now, how else are you looking to leverage AI, whether it be for your business or as you're doing that, I'm sure you're also having other ideas of other businesses you can enter.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, we want to start a few other businesses, and it's helping at different. I mean, for example, we have now a process to hire people. So in April and May, we have to hire 250 employees over a short period of time. So we automated that process so that when people are applying now, the AI or with Airtable, we're automating the whole process. So as you said, you can really in all the different departments of your company. I mean, you can, for example, with accounting, you use tools that are going to enter the bills and invoices directly into your accounting system. So there are so many opportunities inside our own company that we can automate the processes. So that's what we're looking at next.
That's exciting. And then in terms of new ventures, do you have? I was sharing with JP, travelai.com, who is a sponsor of our podcast, and John and the team there are great friends of ours, and they're an amazing example of a Canadian company that is being very innovative and leveraging AI to spin up new businesses and grow rapidly. So is there some areas where you are thinking now, not you have to give away your next big venture idea, because you can keep some of those in your back pocket, but even if it is, expanding beyond the, let me ask you, along with that same question, how you're looking to expand your business empire, because it really is.
Well, we've been working for the last 2 years on building an aquarium in Montreal. So it's kind of a big project. I mean, it would be in the Royal Mount, the new shopping center in Montreal. And we've been working on that for a while. And AI can help you in developing a project. I mean, only with the visuals, so that's, and we're looking at expanding as well. So develop some of our attractions right now in other cities as well. So that's part of our plan. And acquiring other companies. I mean, we know that a lot of baby boomers are going to want to retire at one point. So there are going to be a lot of opportunities in the tourism world. So I think that's a great opportunity to grow as well.
And are you considering growing outside of Quebec?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When
you started this conversation, I think you were thinking about going to Toronto.
At one point. I mean, that was the part. I mean, we even filed a project in Ontario Place, so at one point, and but it's still a goal. I mean, we want to grow and to go to, and Toronto is the next logical place. I mean, it's the biggest city in Canada, and it's that's where.
Well, I can certainly say, being based there, we'd welcome your innovative spirit coming into Toronto, and especially around tourism, because when we went to Montreal last summer, we were doing the pedal bikes and the pirate ships, and it's a fantastic. So when I lit up when you said that these are your businesses, because it was actually a big highlight of our time in Montreal, and I think that's where it's given so much to the tourism industry in Montreal. Another reason to visit, and a wonderful highlight while you're there. The other thing I wanted to ask you about too, as we stand here at Les Grands Remous in this first conference with MT Labs, you know that team very well. You're very well connected in this whole community. I'd love to know what brought you here. Obviously, you were doing a workshop, but I guess what brought you here and what were some of your takeaways from this first conference?
I mean, collaboration is the word. I mean, we're working with other people. It's great to learn what other businesses are doing. I mean, just by being here and talking to people, and people are attending the workshops, but they share their own stories, and you learn by seeing what the other leaders in the industry what they're doing. I mean, I was talking to the owner of the Super Aqua Club, which is water slides and a water park here. And she was telling me of how she has a dashboard connected to AI that analyzes all of her data. And that's something that I haven't looked at yet. But just by connecting with people, collaborating, and people are willing to share. And that's the beauty of the tourism industry. I mean, people are not afraid to share with their competitors what they're doing because they want to help the community.
And so, since you're so innovative and kind of the head of the curve on these trends, I'd also like to get your take on what you're seeing in 2025. Obviously, we've talked about AI, and feel free to reference that again in my question here. But I guess I'd just be genuinely keen to know, from your vantage point, your position in the industry, being in Montreal and focusing on Quebec, where you see the trends for 2025. Like, what are some of the signals you're paying attention to? You just mentioned all the baby boomers about to retire, and this is where these insightful conversations with well-informed people like you that are ambitious and that are tell us some of the things that you're paying attention to.
Yeah, so we're going to pay attention to what's going south of the border for sure. I mean, just to see if we're going to have only for our marketing campaigns, for example. I mean, are we going to see a lot more of people in Quebec staying in Quebec because of what's happening down south? That's a possibility. Are we going to adjust our marketing budget based on that? Probably. So that's one of the things we're going to look at. Second, I mean, obviously you mentioned it, AI, but also all of the automations that we can do with operator and things like that. How can we improve our businesses further and go further than we're already going right now? So those are two of the main points that we're looking at right now closely.
Very cool. No, this is great. I'm so glad we made the time. And I would also just love for you to share, for going back to where our conversation started on AI, a couple of tips or suggestions. I know you had highlighted to me about YouTube, but there was a specific individual that you called out. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a couple of suggestions for our listeners on how they should embrace AI and where they should go to learn more.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there are a few steps. I think there are 4 steps for people to start using AI. I mean, the first one, I think in any business, you should have a clear plan. You should have a guideline of how to use AI in your organization. So what is allowed? What tools can you use? How are you going to use it? So for example, we have a policy inside of our business where whenever AI writes something, there needs to be an individual behind it to approve the message before it is sent to the client. So I think to have that guideline, it really is the first step. Second step, as you said, is keep up to date with the information. So subscribe to the best newsletter in the industry. I was referencing yesterday Matt Wolf on YouTube, where you can really follow every week the latest development in AI over the last week. And that's one of my main source of information, along with some of the newsletters. So I think that's the second step. The third step really is to identify someone in your business that is going to own the AI topic. If nobody has that hat, or that topic, or this responsibility, I mean, it's going to fall into cracks. Nobody's going to take care of it because it's not assigned to anyone. So I think that's the third step. And the fourth step really is to get going, to test, and to create your own tools. I mean, even some basic ones. I mean, the $20 that ChatGPT is asking, for example, to create custom GPTs or create projects where you can give information about your business and who you are, how you operate, your style of voice, all of those information. I think that's the best step to get the best results.
Excellent advice. No, this has been, I was looking forward to it. It's exceeded my expectations, and they were already pretty high with the after having spoken to you yesterday. And I know so many people were keen for us to connect, which I'm just delighted. So tell everyone how they can find out more about your businesses if you want, obviously, partnerships that are likely listening to this, or to follow up and work with you directly.
Yes, so they can go on aitourism.com, .ca, sorry. So they can subscribe to our newsletter. That's a good point. I mean, we have the site in French and English, and we send a newsletter every 2 weeks with the latest trends in AI in tourism. So that's a good point. And they can also connect with me on LinkedIn, Jean-Philippe Duscheneau, and I'll be glad to talk to everyone.
Amazing. And we've connected, and we're certainly going to keep in touch, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time in Montreal. So merci beaucoup, Jean-Philippe, or JP as you prefer.
Yeah.
Great to speak to you, and I wish you every success with your business for the next decade.
Thank you very much. I was really happy to be here.
I now have the privilege to sit down to speak to Geneviève Turner, who is the GM of Sustainable Tourism Quebec, who is here for this amazing conference. Welcome, Geneviève. Great to have you with us. Bonjour.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you for doing this in English as well.
Yeah, I'm trying.
No, it's excellent. And so tell us a little bit about your background and specifically, what is Sustainable Tourism Quebec?
Yeah, this is a nonprofit organization that has been founded by a professional in tourism in 2020. Well, 2021, because we really wanted to, face the challenge and do our parts. So our mission is to inspire a change, support the transition, and mobilize the entire tourism sector in Quebec through collaboration and sharing the knowledge, so that people are all on the same basic about sustainable tourism and sustainable development. And we promote the sustainable initiative. So we want to inspire.
Fantastic. All right. So you are based close to Montreal. We're obviously here in Quebec City together. Clearly, there's a lot of connections between what you do with the event, with MT Lab, and the theme of innovation and sustainability. But what specifically brought you to this conference?
Yeah, well, Sustainable Tourism Quebec is partner of MT Lab. We are a strategic partner.
Okay, yeah.
And Destination Québec City is a member of our organization that is really invested with us. So since the beginning.
Very cool.
And so that's why. And we gave a workshop yesterday about, because we had developed a carbon footprint emission calculator for the organization in tourism.
Oh, very cool.
Specifically for the territory of Quebec, and that's why I was here.
So you have many reasons to be here. And since this is the very first conference of its kind, I'd love to hear what your experience is beyond, obviously, giving the presentation and being a partner, what your experience has been at the conference. I know there are plans to do this at least next year and potentially for 3 years. I've found it incredibly informative, insightful, and inspiring. What has been some of the takeaways for you?
Well, I really enjoyed it. We do an event like this as well every year, but it's less bigger, of course, because there's not like the innovation part really. And I will go back with full of ideas and hopes that people will do what they say they will do, because there was a lot of good things that came out, and I like that we also highlight the paradox. Is that a word?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So I like to see now what we're going to do with it. And I'll be part of it, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so true. Exactly what you say is that people leave feeling inspired, but the question is whether or not they're actually going to maintain and keep up their commitment. So tell us some of the initiatives that you have on in 2025 with sustainability in Quebec. Because I've seen some really interesting examples here, and I wasn't able to attend your session yesterday. So I'd love for you to highlight for our global listeners some of the initiatives that you're undertaking.
Well, especially like this measurement of carbon footprint, because we think that there will be more and more rules and incentive that will require to be engaged in a sustainable tourism transition. And one of the ways to adapt is to integrate new management practices, like the measurement of carbon footprint. So I think we need to see where we are to like try to make a plan about it.
Yeah.
So that's where we are right now. We have a lot of projects. I could go on for a long time, but like mainly right now, this is my focus. I want that we try to play with this. There are rules everywhere in the world. You've seen Queenstown and everything, so they have a super nice objective.
Yeah,
I hope
exactly.
we can do the same. Yeah.
Yeah, Matt, who, depending on when people are listening to this or the sequence, obviously he was featured on this podcast as well, and he highlighted 2030 to give that pressure to your point about the commitment, is that you can't put it too far away, 2040, 2050, you don't feel that same level of responsibility. So what are you going to do by 2030? I'm curious, what brought you into this space? Were you in tourism before?
I've
so tell us your
always
background.
been in tourism. I've worked like so many jobs, like hotels. I've done it all, restaurants.
Yeah.
And I was a travel agent also for a lot of years.
Oh, no way. Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Mhm.
And how long have you been? Because you were actually a founding partner in
Yes.
this business?
So yeah, in 2020, when everything stopped, I was a travel agent, so I didn't have a lot of jobs. So I invested my time in creating this organization with other people, and I had really anyway. I was already like about to operate a change because I had a lot of conscience about what I was doing.
Yeah.
So of the impacts, and I
Yeah.
wanted to make it better.
And how big is the organization? Take us a little bit through the team that's involved with Sustainability Quebec. How large is the group and the team that you work with?
Oh, well, we are now 2 officially since last March. Yeah. So, yeah, but there's a lot of volunteer working with us. A lot of people here in this event are invested in engaging our organization one way or another. They give time. And so that's really nice to see people just,
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Sounds like you have found your calling, as we would say in English. You've there's probably a better French expression for that, but you have found your path and your way.
I guess.
Yeah. And for those of our listeners that want to learn more, to connect with you or to find out more about the organization, where should they go?
Well, our website is a very good entry because we have full of free resources. It's all in French, though.
They can use Google Translate. Yeah.
We have it's www.tourismedurable.quebec, so it's kind of hard.
See, the French sounds so much better, but I'd like, yes. But say it one more time so make sure everyone gets it.
tourismedurable.quebec.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone will be able to find that. It's
Yeah, for sure.
Are you guys active on social media as well?
Yeah, we have social media. Well, my colleague is working on it now. Me, it's not my
Not your
my
specialty?
superpower.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then I'm assuming you're on LinkedIn though too, if people
Yes,
want to connect with
I
you
am.
directly.
Mm-hmm. Geneviève Turner. Yes.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, it's a real pleasure meeting you. I'm glad that you are part of this event. It really has been such a special couple of days here, and I think the community. I had a great appreciation for Quebec. I love coming here, but the people are truly wonderful, and I think that's one thing I want to get across, and that's why it's nice you actually offered to sit down and speak to me as well, and saying, my English, I'm like, no, my French, I feel terrible that my French isn't better, but the fact that you are willing and there is just, everyone here is so welcoming and so kind and offering up, so thank you for making the time, and I wish you every success.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now I have the pleasure to speak to a really unique business, actually. This guy founded Quebec Camper Van, electric camper vans. I love camper vans myself. Many of my listeners know I've taken quite a few trips in camper vans. I think that's what I want my retirement life to look like. But his name is Olivier Marcoux, and he is based here in Quebec City.
Yeah, we're recently based in Quebec City. Actually, we are opening our second office in Quebec. We initially opened in Bromont, which is not far from Montreal, for some that know. So the 2 main cities in Quebec.
Awesome. Now, how did you start this? When did you start it, and how did this all come about for you?
So during the end of the pandemic, so 2021, we opened our first office in Bromont, basically a small startup that I wanted to live from my passion, which was traveling, and the freedom of the camper van brings you a lot of great experiences. So I wanted to share that experience with others. We started with 7 vehicles. We're today at 5 years later, actually, at 25 and opening our second office in Quebec.
Amazing, good for you. And so tell us about these electric vehicles themselves. What type of vehicles are you offering people in these camper vans?
So the vehicles is a Ford Transit, e-Transit. Actually, it's the same format than gas-powered vehicles. The only difference is the motor itself. Why it's interesting is because we're the first one in North America that started it. And we started it since we wanted to continue to grow without having in the back of our mind the feeling we were growing something that in a foreseeable future we'll have to change in some way or another, since we're promoting the green beauty and the rustic Quebec region, which is beautiful for all its nature, but at the same time we're using our gas-powered vehicle, which consume 25 liter per 100 kilometer. So we're trying to simply find another way to continue to grow. And this option came up. We started with one vehicle, and now half of our fleet actually in Bromont is 100% electric powered. And we're fully booked actually for the past 4 years and going strong. The reason why we're opening 100% electric second office in Quebec.
Very cool. And so tell everyone where Bromont is for our global listeners they may be familiar with Quebec City on a map. They can obviously look it up as well. But where's Bromont?
Bromont is just south from Montreal, so it's an hour north from J-Peak, so right next across the border you have J-Peak, Burlington in Vermont. So it's really close to basically 5 hours from New York. I don't know if you want other reference.
No, that's great for all our American listeners. That is our biggest audience, so
sure.
That is helpful context.
100%.
Do you actually have a lot of Americans that come across to rent camper vans here in Quebec?
Interestingly, actually, there's a lot of people that come across the border with their own camper vans. Our main clients are from France, from Belgium, from Switzerland. We have clients that come across the pond to basically rent for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks sometimes, due to the fact that there's that aspect of freedom that you know from all your trips. People don't necessarily want to rent, 20 Airbnbs, to travel and visit Quebec, since it's such a big province. So they have this sort of freedom to do maybe 2,000-3,000 kilometers during their whole trip, and simply stay in the same house at the same time all the time.
So is the majority of your customers then international? It's not Quebecois, it's not the locals. It's actually international travelers coming to Quebec.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's we have a lot of Quebecois as well, maybe 30-40%, but the majority of it and all our marketing, all our because for French and, as I said, French-speaking Europeans mainly, we focus our marketing towards them. They organically, that's what they want. There's a lot of effort from the Minister of Tourism to showcase Quebec's great traits, great nature, and that's what they want. So the vehicle itself actually carries that. So it helps actually do exactly what they want to see.
And how have you marketed yourselves? I mean, to grow to 25 vehicles, 2 destinations is such a great success story. How have you actually been able to find those customers? How have they found you? Are you using social media, search engine optimization? What's been your marketing strategy to grow this business?
There's a lot of luck, to be 100% sincere. So initially, when the borders were closed, so it was 100% Quebecois people that were during the pandemic. Remembering that all the borders, the flights, everything, unless it was mandatory, you couldn't cross. Once that opened, so our government, on this first year actually of our business opening, opened the borders at the end of the summer season. So around September, if I recall correctly, and two weeks before they opened, they mentioned it. And from that point on, we actually received a ton of booking to complete our season from September, October, and even November. And that's from France, actually, from Belgium, from Switzerland. And from that point on, I was like, wow, what an opportunity to tackle, with, SEO, so all the lexic, so all the words we use, focus on the vocabulary they use, which is different from Quebecois, to talk about a camper van. Obviously, it's a camper porté, or so all these specific differences we focus on to make sure that they understand what we do, basically, and they are able to rent correctly our vehicles.
And out of interest, do you partner with any travel agencies to sell the camper vans, or are you doing everything B2C or consumer direct?
Yeah, so we're 100% organic. We started doing that's really funny because there's so many ways to get some clients, but initially 100% organic for maybe the first 3 years. We're in a certain way a small ad agency because we're working directly with influencers as well. So all our vans, when they're not with clients, we want them to be driven by influencers, by promoters, by content creators, so that they can showcase and obviously reach to those potential clients. Otherwise, we partner with tourist organizations to showcase what they have what's to be done in a van in their region, because nowadays, even post-pandemic, this trend is growing also a lot, even though people might think it was a bubble. This van life thing, hashtag van life, it's still something that's growing actually in North America, certainly in Quebec. I mean, we don't see any trends of the rental going down. So for me, it's something that these are the things that we do to stay organic, meaning that we don't need to go through a travel agency that takes its cut. Maybe we will at a certain point in time, since we're still small with 25 trucks. When you compare to bigger businesses like Canada Dream, for instance, that have hundreds and hundreds of vehicles, at that point might be necessary.
Yeah, no, that's great. I mean, and there are large global conglomerates now that are buying up all these camper van companies. So hopefully you'll not only at some point find yourself in that position, but potentially scale this business, and maybe you don't even need to be acquired. But it's been a real pleasure meeting you. Tell me a little bit about what brought you to this event this year.
The event itself, I mean, is a reproduction of an event that's called e-tourisme in Pau, which is in France. That's basically gathering all the people from the industry together to evolve and innovate in the tourism industry. So to me, it's necessary to understand what they think, where we're heading, and ultimately, how to integrate all those practices, whether it's through a conference or whether it's basically through talking on one-on-one with all these people. As you know, time is really difficult to have these days. So when you're able to see all these people for 48 hours and have a face-to-face discussion with them, it helps really to grow our business and the van life industry as a whole in Quebec.
That's awesome. I'm glad so obviously it worked out well for you. You're happy to be here, and clearly you're going to come back then by the sounds of it.
Absolutely, 100%.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, Olivier, it's been a wonderful pleasure to meet you. Obviously, I'm thrilled that you've got such a Quebec success story to be able to share in tourism and sustainability. Like you fit this event perfectly. But tell everyone if they want to find out more information about Bromont Campervan or Quebec Campervan, or to reach out to you directly.
For sure. So obviously bromontcampervan.com, quebeccampervan.com, really easy to find us online. We've got a few articles about the company that were written by a lot of journalism and the evolution of it. So and obviously my email is on the website if they ever want to call. It's going to be a pleasure to discuss.
Well, that's awesome. Well, thank you again, and good luck in the year ahead.
Thank you, Dan.
I now have the pleasure to sit down with Simon Jacobs, who you're going to hear has a lovely English accent, but he's actually been in Quebec most of his life here in Quebec City. He is a tour guide. He's an entrepreneur. He has 2 different businesses. Bonjour, Simon. Welcome. Great to have you with us.
Merci beaucoup. Bonjour. How are you doing? Okay, yeah, that's the English accent.
There you go. Obviously, you're so wonderfully fluent, seeing you navigate the crowds. But yes, tell us, Simon, a bit of your background and what brings you here.
Oh my goodness. I came here actually to play with a symphony orchestra. I played with the Quebec Symphony for 20 years and then decided, you know what, been there, done that, sounds kind of weird, but went from there and did an MBA. I was running something called the Morin Center, which is, I'm very much community involved as well.
Okay.
So I was running as executive director for the Morin Center. I also did a history of the Jewish history of Quebec City. We have books published.
Amazing.
Then I'm on the Quebec Anglophone Heritage Network, which is actually something that people should be looking up if you're interested in the history of Quebec across the entire province.
Yeah.
And then ended up as a tour guide and also working now as the general manager for Tour Voir Quebec and for Immersion Quebec.
Well, let's talk about the day tours first. I want to talk about the touring because I love, when I first arrived in Quebec City here for this conference, one of the startups actually took me on a walking tour. And obviously, Stéphane that runs Novam, he runs a startup, but it's sort of his passion that he does walking tours.
It's my favorite. When I started doing tours, it's like, I'm home. Here is what I want to do. Unfortunately, I have a bum knee, so I'm waiting for that to get better.
So tell us about that side of your business. So tell us about Tour Voir Quebec and the types of tours that you run here in Quebec City.
Okay, so Tour Voir is a company that's been around for 20 years. We, in fact, have received now for the last few years the best of the best from TripAdvisor. That means in the top 1% in the world, because we just get great reviews. They're always good. And this is an amazing place to have a tour company because it's so historic. So the idea of doing a tour, it's like usually between 2 and 2.5 hours long if you take a general tour. And that's going to give you an idea of basically the culture, the history, and also things to do. So it's a really good thing to do basically wherever you go, but especially in Quebec City. Take a tour, and you're going to, at the beginning of your trip, that way you're not going to miss out on some of the stuff that you may want to, or you're going to hear some really good things that you didn't know about. Generally, we tell our guides, like, find out about your guests, because we don't have large groups. We have up to 15 people. And I always tell my guides, walk with your people, find out who they are, and find out what interests them. You know, if you have a whole bunch of doctors, you could talk about the Augustine Monastery, where they have a museum on saws and stuff that used to hack people apart with. It could be accounting, it could be insurance. If you want to know about Quebec, we have the answers.
Well, tell us, for our listeners that have not been to Quebec City, or those who have been but don't have a full understanding of what would be 3 reasons why they should come to Quebec City and do a walking tour. What are they going to experience on a walking tour with you? I've got one example to share from my experience, but I'd love to hear yours first.
Oh, dang, I was hoping to hear yours.
I want to see if it's actually one of the same. Actually, go for it.
Okay, well, I was kind of mentioning about that. Well, first of all, history. There is so much history here. I actually say to people, you know, some people like, oh, I just want to walk around. I say that walking around is like looking at the architecture. It's like looking at a skeleton. You see the bones, but who the heck is it? So what you want to know is, we put the flesh on the bones. We tell the stories, and the guides will tell the stories behind it. So you're just not looking at a building, but you're looking at the history, the stories that are associated with that. Obviously, we can't do everything, but we at least give you a good introduction. So number 1, history. Number 2 is, for instance, things to do, or how to progress in your day or your time that you're here. And so that's number 2. Number 3 would be, as I said, going to what restaurants to go to, how to get the shortcuts.
The cuisine, you got to get poutine.
Oh my God, yeah, where to get the poutine now? There's another sticky point. Places to go see. Do you have a car? In that case, what time of the year? Can you go to the island of Orleans? It's gorgeous. Or can you go further away? I usually tell people when I'm working as a guide, is actually my mission is to make you want to come back for 2 weeks. And my recommendation would be 1 week in Quebec, 1 week 3 days on the South Shore, 3 days on the North Shore.
Very cool.
Because it is, I love this place. Look, I'm transplanted and I love it. It's amazing here.
Yeah, I totally understand it. Yeah. But now, tell us about your other business. So tell us about Immersion Quebec.
Okay, Immersion Quebec is actually really neat because first of all, it's an historic building in Maison Chevalier, very close to the Place Royale, which is where you saw the first church.
Yeah.
And it's in the basement. 1752 it was built, so it's incredible space. We have a VR presentation it's like a film, but you're actually totally immersed in it, of the history of Quebec, starting in fact, before the French arrived in 1535 with Jacques Cartier. So you see the Native Americans, you actually start off in a longhouse, then you see the French arrive, and what we've done is we've taken the topography of the city, recreated that, and then basically taken historical maps and buildings and pictures to recreate what Quebec would have looked like through the ages. And so you see like the Battle of the Plains of Abraham, you're going to see literally the Plains of Abraham, the fields. You're going to be flying over, you're going to see the soldiers going to it. Then you're going to come to the port time when this was a major port in North America, up until the present day, and you're actually going to be doing a flyover in a drone where you're suspended 300 feet in the air looking around. And you have, because it's VR, you have full availability to look around. It's incredible.
That's amazing. And if people want to find out more about this, where should they go?
Oh, basically, you go on the website, which would be immersionquebec.com. If you want to do the walking tours, Tour Voir Quebec, book with us directly. It's always better. That way we have more flexibility as well. And we also do private tours. We can arrange bus tours. If you want to go with a chauffeur, for instance, or go further afield, we can also arrange that too.
Well, that's great. Well, it's been fantastic to meet you here. I guess the one last question, your takeaway. Clearly, there's many benefits of you being here at this conference for the first time. Is there anything that stood out to you in particular that you're going to walk away from this conference with, and are you going to plan to come back next year?
I do plan to come back next year. My brain has exploded just with the idea of how artificial intelligence can be used, because it is. I had certain ideas about it, but I can see the application could be far, far greater than I even ever experienced. Of course, the other thing to do with that is how to deal with the time to learn it and to apply it. But I think it's going to be worth it.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's some great startups here, and that people will heard to listen to on this session. But Simon, it's a real pleasure to meet you, and good luck with your business in the next year.
Thank you so much. Hope to see you again.
Likewise. Well, hello, everyone. I just wanted to say what an extraordinary experience I've had here. So now I have the privilege to finish up this conference by speaking to Florence Barbeau, who is the Director of Partnerships at MT Lab. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Dan. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. And I just, you've been such a joy to speak to over the last couple of days, and a number of people had highlighted just, how important your role is at MT Lab, given the Director of Partnerships. And I thought it'd be a perfect way to wrap up this event because I want to get your perspective on what's happened here the last couple of days, some of the takeaways. But before we do that, tell everyone a little bit about your role at MT Lab.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Director of Partnerships, but I actually work more in a continuum with our different partners who are Tourism Montreal, Destination Québec City, and other territories, but also corporates and public associations.
Very cool. And then so you have actually been there. You're a third employee. You've been there for 7 years. It started 8 years ago, so you were, and so you've had many hats over that time. But tell us, you work with for those people that heard a little bit from Martin about what MT Labs does. I know you guys work with startups. You also do events. You guys help with fundraising. Tell us all the other aspects, I guess, of MT Lab that people are just coming to understand on this episode.
Yeah, of course. So we have pretty much three main clients, which are partners, startups, and the rest of the industry. And so as you said, I've worked with all of them. I've been the one accompanying all the startups for more than 2 years. And now I'm working with the partners, which it helped me now working with the startups, helping the partners now, because I can be a better matchmaker and being able to have a better overview of who is part of MT Lab, who did what, and who's owner of which projects. So I make bridges between all of these people, and I really listen to all of their needs, what the solutions are on the market, what are the techs needed and everything. So I make people work together.
Oh, that's great. And this event obviously is the first of its kind, but you're going to be planning to do this for a year or two longer. And it was such an amazing first event. What were some of the big takeaways for you? Because clearly you were involved in bringing this together. You've got an amazing team. There seems to be such a wonderful dynamic amongst the 20 people that work at MT Lab, the MT Love, as I've come to understand it.
Exactly.
So, tell us what were some of the highlights for you over the last couple of days.
Of course. It's funny because yesterday when we came back to the hotel, my colleagues and I were talking about our top three.
Oh, great. Okay, perfect.
Of the day.
All right. I'm very keen to hear.
So it's pretty much about all of the encounters and all the people I met and met again, because I know a lot of people there, but there are still a lot of people to meet and understanding what they're doing and how I can help them and vice versa. So it's really about collaboration, and people have been so inspired by the conferences, the meetings and everything, that it was easier in this context to create new bonds and being myself more inspired for my next projects.
No, that's fantastic. That was 2. Did you get? Was there one more? There was 3.
Yeah. Well, the 3 were pretty much about the meetings. Being able to meet again with people I've met maybe like 5 years ago before COVID, and then meeting them in person. It was so fun. But I remember being able to being a better matchmaker now that being able to have these person in person to the event, being able to help them connect, but face to face. So it was fun to see these new encounters just like being created, and people talk and have so many ideas coming up. So it was I have to what's avouer? I have to
after think through.
no,
Like,
I
sorry.
have to admit something.
Oh, admit, please, yeah.
So I have to admit something. I haven't been to any of the conferences, neither of the workshops.
All right.
So I
You've
don't
been so
know.
busy.
Yes, I've
Yeah.
been so busy just talking to people, and I was the personal concierge for the partners for this event. So
You've been busy.
everyone, I've been busy just helping everyone.
That's why I've seen you buzzing
attaining
around.
their
It's just
goals.
like,
Yes,
no, you've been
exactly.
working. I get it. You weren't here to be attending. Like, it's very different from your perspective, and that's why I wanted to have this conversation with you, because you were key in bringing this event together, and so I'm keen to see what what stood out to you, because I'm sure you're going to take away from this and think about what you want to do for next year, because we're back here for at the port, because I guess you guys had planned this for 2 years. So the idea is to be back at this location next year, which you had about 400 people this year, and obviously you can probably host a few more, but probably not a lot more, because this is pretty much a capacity. But what are some of the thoughts that are going through your mind about maybe what you want to do next year, if anything you want to do differently, if that stood out to you already?
Yeah. Well, my personal goal is always to help the people I work with in these organizations being better innovators and entrepreneurs. So we used to just put people all together in the same room and let things happen. But now for next year, I'd really like to reverse things like the other way around and work more on their needs, their priorities, really understanding what they're doing, listening, talking, and then being able to be a better matchmaker with my team, since like we can then connect more the needs with the solutions. So instead of the other way around.
Yeah. Well, in the startup world, obviously matchmaking is everything when it comes to investors and partners and people that can work and collaborate together. So I would also like to hear from your perspective. I asked Martin about what he has planned for MT Lab at the year ahead. I know you've got this demo day coming up in June, but what are some of the other initiatives that maybe you're working across that we could highlight with our listeners about MT Lab's plans for 2025 and beyond?
Yeah, of course. We host demo days, which are really well known usually for meetings with VCs. But in our world, demo days for partners are the same kind of idea, but using events as a platform to create these meetings and encounters between startups and partners to on a certain theme. So we've done harmonious cohabitation. I don't know what's the right translation. We've done business analytics, BI, and we've done also like the how to put the visitor in a center of an experience by the past. And then this year, our demo day will be on sectors.
Yeah.
So how to match tourism with manufacturing to health, how we can inspire each other on this specific team.
Well, that's cool. And I know you guys have had a big focus on AI. There's some AI startups that are here. And we spoke to JP, who's involved with you guys, right? He's a successful
great
entrepreneur.
Guy.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think people got that from our conversation. It's just like what are some of the trends that you're paying attention to, given your role and just in the industry? Are there any other trends that are, standing out to you in Quebec tourism?
Yeah, of course, sustainability and tourism. It's we have to do something more, and like I think it's our big focus now. But there's so many things. Like when we say we're an incubator in tourism, people think, oh, travel, how to encourage tourists to visit a city. Yes, of course, all of that, but. We are looking for solutions to answer different kinds of needs in this industry. So we're covering like pretty large of a spectrum, like of solutions, such as like data, how to welcome people in a certain context, HR, sustainability. So we're really listening to all of their the needs of the partners, and they have all of the answers. I don't have them. I just listen to them, and I put the finger on the right things, and I also can make the bridges between all of their needs and understanding what's common between them.
Yeah.
And so everything that's common, like I can also do something more collaborative or collaborative projects on these specific needs. So it's really about listening and doing things and making things happen.
No, that's awesome. And that's exactly what we try to do with this show. So like it's a unique skill set that you have and a very valuable one. And I think even just to highlight that, it's the, but yeah, what I was going to say, you obviously, you have a family, you've got a young son.
A young daughter.
A young daughter, I'm so
almost
sorry.
Four.
Just
No,
like,
it's
almost
okay.
4. Okay, yes.
No problem.
And so I think one of the things that stands out, at least it certainly did to me, and I'm sure it's you, like sustainability becomes that much more important when all of a sudden, you think of that next generation.
Exactly.
And what the world is going to look like for them. And so very curious to know about any of your personal travel plans for 2025. Where are you guys going anywhere as a family this summer? What's on your list?
Yeah, well, I have the chance of having a partner in life who's French. So we mostly travel like back and forth friends in Quebec. We live in Quebec, but we have to visit the family in France. But we have a lot of friends coming up this year, so I don't know what will be our plans. I'm just coming back from destination in the south. So.
Oh, that's cool. No, and there's so much to do here in Quebec. So the fact that you want people to come to you, and especially given things that are happening around the world, I think Canadians are going to be exploring more of their own backyard.
Yes, exactly. It helps me discover what we have here to do in Quebec, because I have to plan the trip for our friends.
Yeah, of course,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, and I really have been amazed at all the sustainable options. And even on this conversation, we were speaking about electric camper vans, and there's just so many great examples of innovation around sustainability in Quebec that I wasn't familiar with. So that was a big highlight and takeaway for me. So you guys have done an extraordinary job with this event. Thank you again for bringing me in to be here. It's been such a joy and a pleasure, and I really loved meeting you.
The pleasure was ours. I'm sorry. The pleasure was ours, Dan, of course.
Thank you, Florence. Yeah, and I look forward to keeping in touch with you. And I said to Martin, hopefully I'll see you guys in June. I'm going to try and come up for the demo day.
Of course. Yeah. And if you want to come to MT Lab in our offices, you're always more than welcome to work there with us.
Well, I'll highlight to our listeners too, because you do actually have an office in Toronto. We were actually thinking about doing some events there together.
Yeah.
So you have a presence in that city as well.
And our office there is with Impact On, who are also very involved in sustainability and tourism. So
interesting. Yeah. And you also have an office in Quebec City, where we are here, and you're also adding another office too, I understand.
Well, eventually in Abitibi-Témiscamingue, probably in Rouyn-Noranda, where our next pole in regenerative tourism is going to be.
Well, it's been a real pleasure speaking to you, Florence. I certainly look forward to keeping in touch, and terrific to meet you and the team, and safe travels home, and we'll see each other again soon.
Same. Thank you so much, Dan. See you soon.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci.
Thanks so much for listening to our latest episode of Travel Trends, the event Spotlight from Les Grands Remous from Quebec City. I just want to say thanks again to MT Lab for bringing me in for this amazing event. The team was absolutely extraordinary to work with from start to finish, and I look forward to coming up and actually checking out one of your demo days in Montreal and staying connected to the incredible startup community. which of course was a connection to us because Andrew Lockhead from Stay 22, who was part of the first contingent of startups 8 years ago and has actually been one of the main sponsors and initial partners of the Travel Trends podcast. So he kindly introduced us and we had the most extraordinary time. So thanks again for everyone for taking the time to speak to us. And don't forget, for all of our listeners, we actually do post clips and highlights on our social channels at traveltrendspodcast.com, which you can check out on YouTube and Instagram and LinkedIn. And then we also send out a monthly newsletter of all of our latest episodes and our upcoming travels for the next month. So be sure to check that out as well. And we look forward to bringing you more spotlights as we focus on events, destinations, and startups. Until next time, safe travels.